Hey, how's it going, everybody? You're listening to the Where Are We podcast, where we talk about Indigenous people in the media. For today's show, we're talking about Indigenous people's representation in video games. So as we have discussed on previous shows, Indigenous peoples are hardly represented positively in the media, if at all, and video games are no exception. Not only are they, in some cases, underrepresented, but they are also negatively represented and are depicted by negative stereotypes. So why am I talking about video games today? Well, you see, I started playing this iPhone game called Dragon City. Seems harmless, right? You know, it was a free game, kind of cool. You get to build stuff and collect money and food and all that kind of stuff. Well, see, this game has an Apache dragon that I was able to win, and I won it. And you know, initially, like I am for everything, I was really excited that there was even any Indigenous type character. However, when I actually saw the character and his stats, I was completely disappointed with this game. So why did I find this dragon so appalling? I mean, it's just a dragon, right? Well, his appearance was something that kind of bugged me. He was featured wearing a headdress, ponytails, beaded bracelets, beaded necklace, and war paint on his face and on his whole body. And also, what's this cool special thing that he does when you click on him? Well, let me tell you, he smokes a peace pipe and then goes on his hind legs and waves an axe in the air. Really? Really, Dragon City? Is this something that you actually want to put out there in the world? Kids are playing this. I mean, Dragon City is displaying a traditional dress inappropriately, and they are also featuring many of the negative stereotypes that exist in today's culture, and mostly as a result of Manifest Destiny beliefs. This small and unimportant iPhone game features an Indigenous character that has the stereotypical character traits of an Indigenous person, like being constantly high and only wanting to kill people, which really brings forward the savage character, and the warrior. There's more to them than that. And even besides his dress, and apart from this appearance, his statistics are even surprisingly low, especially when you compare them to other characters. You see, this Apache dragon, who's at level 10 right now for me, has a life stat that is 3,744, and his firepower is only 699. And just so you can get kind of like a feel of the ridiculousness of all of this, there's another dragon who's a banana. That's right, it's just a banana. And he has the life power of 4,277 with a firepower of 799. So yeah, according to this game, a banana is a stronger and better character than the Indigenous one. And keep in mind that this is by far an isolated incident. We'll be talking about those other incidences after we hear from A Tribe Called Red with their song Suplex featuring Northern Voice. again, that was A Tribe Called Red with their song Suplex featuring Northern Voice. You are still listening to the Where Are We podcast, where we talk about Indigenous people in the media. And for today's show, we're talking about Indigenous people's representation in video games. You know, I create my shows. I like to do some research to see what other people said about these issues that I'm talking about. So I came across this gaming blogger whose name is Charles Sharam, and he wrote about the Indigenous characters in today's gaming world. Now, first off, we have Mortal Kombat's Nightwolf, who is a tribal warrior who dons feathers and face paint while he wields about an arrow and a tomahawk. And he even transforms into a wolf in this battle. Does anybody smell Twilight? I do. Now, second, we have Street Fighter's Thunderhawk. And third, he lists Banjo-Tooie's magical shaman character, Humba Wumba, who is a female, so that's at least a step in the right direction. Unfortunately, she's heavily sexualized, so it makes me really uneasy. So apparently she lives in a wigwam, and she isn't as sexualized in the first game, but in the second game, her chest is a very large feature, let's just say. Charles also points out that over the past 30 years, Indigenous characters have been heavily underrepresented in video games. And if they are represented, they are portrayed in a disrespectful manner, and usually they just reuse all these same stereotypes. So just to see for myself what these characters actually did look like, I looked them up, and unsurprisingly, they all do look extremely similar. They all wear the same type of boot, they don war paint, they wear a vest, they wear a headband, and have feathers attached to that headband, which is not unlike the Apache Dragon in Dragon City. And another blog that I found was the Silquist Indie Gaming blog, where they wrote about the brief history behind Indigenous peoples in video games. And what I learned from reading this article really opened my eyes to how far back this problem actually started. So back in the 80s and 90s, many games that came out in arcades, remember those? Old Big Things Pac-Man, maybe you remember him? Anyway, a lot of the arcades brought out games that were pretty much just about battling Indigenous characters, which is assumed to be linked to the popularity of cowboys and Indians at the time. Such games that were featured in the article include Law of the West, Outlaws and Kane from 1985, Quick Draw McGaw from 1990, Hammer Boy and Cowboy Kid from 1991, and finally, Indian Attic from 1993. All of these games that I just listed are games pretty much where you kill the Indian. Pardon my French in that one. It is sickening, but you kind of have to understand, too, that in the 80s and early 90s, it was just a regular thing. However, with all this said, they do write at the end of the article some characters that are being better represented in video games over the past few years. But even with the list that they provided, the representation of Indigenous people is still completely heavily stereotyped, because even those protagonists that they showed were not that far off from the negative ones that they listed earlier. And before my next segment, I'm going to play another song off of Tribe Called Red's 2015 album Suplex. Here is The People's Champ featuring Hellenbach.
Contact during conflict, I'm a disaster, fight for clean water. Now that's a battle rapper, red blood, red skin, highly forsaken. You talking, I walk, that's the difference. I put my people on my back, on my home nation, knowing they're the reason that I rap. Tell me what you rapping for, if you ain't in it for change, then don't bring about the score. Ain't no reason for you to ever go tour, if you rap like Little B and talk that folklore. Whoa, baddest savage, still breathing, red skin, with a battle cry here for every season, chief. Hell no, angel star, no spangle, never had no angles, it's bars and fans faithful. It's always family over everything, family is the motivation in my pain medicine. Never afraid to go and get it in, never been a lame, and a lame is what I never been. I do this for my dead relatives and every warrior stuck in on our land settlement. I hope you understand the beast that is awoken is a proud native and never mistaken for a token. If you're looking for a problem, then I think you might have found him. I'ma always stand up and let them know I am astounding. No, you ain't met a native who was conquering, toppling over offerings, imagine another stopping me. I've been the topic of prophecies, ancient Indian philosophies, to find the words and toss at thee. I am a cocky being a being of Hopkins Kings. My lack of father figure made my future not so clean. Stuck to a hollow dream, stumbled through my first 16. That was written out of pain, that started when I reached my teens. Stayed on a solo mission, life taught me to go the distance. Way before Kevin Costner was told from a ghostly vision. Can't say my pot to pissin', wasn't porcelain. Treat you like burgundy and fracture you up, but don't some years. Red skin more for years, minus the black that trench. Point to left field, start crushing the first pitch. You know, life can just switch. It all depends on the circle that you keep, minus family and friends. You're only as strong as your weakest link, and if you think I'm wrong, then please don't ask again. I never came to play. Don't be asking me unless you're serious and ready to pay the fee. I represent my nation. Samson is the hoe. If you need to know that home is a toe, got love for everyone and die for those I call my wife and my kids, and that's about all.
And once again, that was A Tribe Called Red with The People's Champ featuring Hellenbach. Again, you're listening to the Where Are We podcast, where we talk about Indigenous people in the media. And for today's podcast, we're talking about Indigenous people's representation in video games. And this brings me to the next part of the podcast, where I feature some insightful audio from other podcasts or YouTube videos that I think may help you understand what I'm talking about. So this week features a video from Lord Dacker, who is basically taking you through a land plot someone made in Minecraft. And apparently it was inspired by Native Americans. So I'm just going to play that for you now. I'm going to play parts of it, because some of it's kind of boring, but I can almost guarantee that when I do play this for you, it will make you sad for the humankind. So here is this week's video audio from Lord Dacker.
So this one is actually a Native American style, and this is by LavaKid88. This is just awesome. This is a Native American style. Just in general, when you think about Native American, you think of that kind of Wild West, like cowboys versus Indians. And this is probably the style that you think about. Teepees and canoes, things like that, Pocahontas type canoes. That's the way that I think. And also, wow, I've forgotten the word for this. That is absolutely amazing. Anyway, that's gonna annoy me. Totem pole. There we go. I got it. I'm pretty sure it's a totem pole. So anyway, let's have a look at the actual style itself. It's kind of got a very mixed kind of tint, using the brown, using the, I think it's light grey, and also using hardened clay, which is actually really interesting to make a different type of brown. And there we go, inside the actual hut itself. It's actually a lot bigger than I thought it was. It's like the TARDIS in there. So we've got these in front, as if these were going to be like the furs that you can actually push across. I'm guessing, they've done the same on that. That's an interesting style then. Got some meat cooking, fire in the middle, very much similar to Celtic roundhouses, which is kind of interesting now that I think about it. They've got some meat hanging up there, and they've actually used the rope gun across here, which looks awesome. Sand as well in the bottom, but just wicked. Awesome totem pole, I really like it. Using the, whatever it's called, this oak wood plank. But also using all the other stuff that's around it, which really makes it just cool. The ground itself is pretty crazy, as you can see, so it's like dry, but he's also mixed in some of the more greener bits around this water, which I think really, really helps. And with these kind of like mesa-like rocks, it just looks really interesting and really cool. It's just a very, very unique terrain, and with the sand and stuff, and dead trees, and all the bushes that he's used, it just looks awesome. Terrain-wise, this is a very interesting thing, and I love this part here. It actually mixes in a lot better than I thought it would. But anyway, let's go into this one. So we've got another one here. So this one doesn't have its fire, but there's still smoke somehow. So I'm guessing somebody's punched out the fire. But there we go, let's grab that. So inside here, again, hanging stuff up so they can cook those over the fire. Got simple beds just tucked in, and some more storage around the sides. But there you go. Really interesting style. Actually also, simple little canoe. So they go out fishing somewhere. And again, like another dead type of tree.
So there you have it, a guy who knows absolutely nothing about Indigenous history, culture, or land is talking about how cool everything looks when it isn't even accurate when you see it. Overall, I think that it is very important to pay attention to what you see being represented in video games and ask yourself, how are these representations affecting our society's perceptions of modern-day Indigenous people in North America? That's a question for you to consider as we move out of today's podcast. Again, thank you so much for joining me. And the music that we played in this episode is from the Canadian Aboriginal artist, A Tribe Called Red, from their 2015 album, Suplex. So the reason why I chose this band of all the bands that I had access to is because the cover of their CD is actually featuring a pixelated, stereotypical Indigenous male. So I thought that kind of fit very well in today's theme. Again, if you want to hear more of A Tribe Called Red, check them out on all their social media pages, and don't forget to tune in next week for a new Where Are We podcast, where we talk about Indigenous peoples' representation in the media. So you do not want to miss it next week. I look forward to hearing all your comments. Make sure that you subscribe to this podcast. And right now, to play us out is Body Slam from A Tribe Called Red off of their 2015 album, Suplex. Thanks again for listening to my podcast. My name's Jazz, and catch you later.